Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name is Pete and this is a 5-minute Bags of Action review of The Debt Collector 2, also known as Debt Collectors, from 2020. A pair of debt collectors are thrust into an explosively dangerous situation, chasing down various lowlifes while also evading a vengeful kingpin. This was directed by Jesse V. Johnson, who's a stuntman as well as being a writer-director. He also directed Triple Threat, Accident Man, Avengement, and the film. This is a sequel to The Debt Collector. He co-wrote it with Stu Smalls, who also co-wrote The Accident Man and Avengement with him. Scott Adkins is back in this movie playing French, alongside Louis Mandylor as Sue, and their boss Vladimir Kulich, who plays Tommy. Some of the new cast includes Marina Sirtis, of course most famous for Star Trek The Next Generation, but has also been in films like Crash. Ski Carr is in this movie, also from the film Holes, and who's made appearances in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Mei Ling, who's from Wonder Woman and The Suicide Squad, though interestingly playing different characters in those two movies, and Vernon Wells, a heavyweight of action cinema villainhood, who you'll have seen in Mad Max 2, Commando, and things like Weird Science as well. Now, I knew this sequel existed before I watched the first movie. In fact, I actually watched these two films back to back. So I'm about to spoil the first one. So if you haven't seen it, go and do that and then come back, because I'm going to talk about the sequel and I need to refer back to the first movie. Now, I have to imagine that the first film was a real success, certainly compared to its budget level, as just 2 years later we had this follow-up. Also, I don't think the first film was planned to launch a franchise. How beautifully old-fashioned. Mainly as the first film worked so well standalone. And here's the big thing. Sue was presented to us as being dead at the end of the first movie, and it was left open as to whether French had also not made it out of the final assault. In fact, I kind of took it the way they set it up that both the main characters had passed away. So, as you can expect, the first 10 minutes or so of this film focuses on the two guys finding out they're both still alive and being reunited, along with the audience finding that out too, I guess. Although they're both on the cover, their names are in the credits, and it is a buddy movie, so it was pretty obvious they came back, but it's kind of interesting how they did this. I mean, once you get past the implausibility of them being alive, this film is a lot of fun. It opens this time with a Roadhouse-style scene, and reuniting the two debt collectors for another 3-day job. Now, I love the way the first film had Sue's vintage Coupe de Ville car that they drove around in, and this time French chooses a sensible Hyundai, and I love that kind of juxtaposition, and it meant for some really funny moments, a comparison between the two cars. What also works well in this film is the refinements they've made. They've taken what kind of worked in the first film and made it far more palatable, I think. Sue has become teetotal in this film, and he's anti-violent, especially to women, which is key because that was one of the worst things about the first film. And that helps you develop his character, but it also makes him a more palatable joint lead as well. It's easier to like him in this movie. Now, I loved how they made French step up more and be more in your face. Scott Adkins' character obviously learned a lot from Sue in the first film, and there's kind of a role reversal here. It's really cleverly done. In the first film, Sue would be the one going in first to collect the money, and this time it's Adkins that is much more kind of direct, which I liked. And the fights in this movie are even better than the first one. There's a brilliant fight sequence that is reminiscent of, and quite possibly a homage to, the really famous one from They Live. And this film overall is just much more cohesive than the first one, with a better thought out overall story and a wonderfully established dynamic between the two leads. I couldn't help but warm to it. There are still some missteps. The lack of budget is really noticeable when they head to Vegas, and the odd joke still doesn't work or goes a little bit too far. But when the jokes do land, much like the punches and kicks, they land with much more impact than in the first film. Is this a classic? No. But for the kind of low-budget, see-it-at-night, old-school buddy movie, this works really well, and it's much better than I anticipated off the back of the first one. They lean into what was established in the first movie really well, and the writing is much stronger this time out. it just raises the bar a level. I think because you've got to know the characters, there's more they can do with it, whereas a lot of the first film was about setup. This might actually be my favourite Adkins movie that has him starring in it, rather than working alongside someone else. I'll say it quietly, but I'd quite like to see a third one in this series, and 10 minutes into the first film, I would never have seen that coming. If we did half bags, maybe this could do even better, but I'm actually going to give The Debt Collector 2 a very solid 3 bags of action out of 5. If you have listened to this having not seen the first film, which would be a strange thing to do, then I do implore you to watch them both, because you need the first one to understand the characters to watch the second, but the second is a far stronger movie to me. So, have you seen The Debt Collector 2? Do you agree with my assessment of it? Is it better than the first one? Feel free to comment below or get in touch with us. You can do that on email, Facebook, or on Twitter. We have new episodes coming out weekly, including our full-length podcast. Don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell to get notifications. Bags of Action will always be free. If you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do that at our Ko-fi page.